Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's me, JB. I'm here. Talking about Donald Trump and his bullshit. Now he's pushing to increase the troops, the police, and threatening the National Guard in D.C. because somebody got killed recently. They say there's no spike in crime, but he wants to do this. And I'll tell you why I think he's going to do this. He's about to make a very unpopular move, and I believe it'll be against Social Security. And when he does that, he knows exactly what's going to happen. And it'll happen faster than troops can get there. So now he's putting them in place ahead of time so that he can, sit around and watch what happens. Isn't that a dickhead move? That's just an opinion of mine. Don't start that as a rumor. That's just an opinion. Then Trump is saying that undocumented workers do farm labor naturally, which is also saying they're doing it willingly. Well, the reason people come up here to do farm labor is because they're poor. They're not making any money where they are. They come up here, they get housing, they get a little medical care if they need sometimes. But they make money and they turn around and they take it back down to where country they're from. That's what they do. Most of them don't stay here because they don't want to be here. They come up here out of necessity. Farm laborers aren't coming up here to be farm laborers, permanent farm laborers. They're not coming up here to be landscapers or anything else. Okay, those particular workers, seasonal workers, are coming up here for the money. That's it. Give me the money and let me go. All right. So I don't understand. Trump's trying to think of a way to get him in the country. Yeah, like trying to think of a way to bring him in like slaves because that's his mentality. I don't understand Donald Trump anymore. He's destroying the country's basic fiber. I mean, he's making some aspects of the country are surviving and are really doing well. But that's usually the higher echelon. When I'm speaking higher echelon, I mean higher income people. Not necessarily rich, but higher income. The middle class, which barely exists, is suffering. That's me. That's what I was when I was there. I was supposed to be middle class. And they were suffering. That's why I left. I couldn't afford to live there anymore. I'm not a well-educated individual. I hate sitting in an office. I've done it, and I hate it. I don't like to be told what to do, so I start my own cleaning service and whatnot. And it just got to a point where it wasn't worth the effort of, sitting there. It cost me $700 a year to do my taxes, so I wasn't making that great money. Anyhow, but that's why I'm down here, and I left the United States to better myself economically, whereas the people down there and down here go to the United States to better themselves economically. And I understand that. But when you head to the East Coast or something like that, the cost of living is so high, you end up living in a shack, and I saw that with a lot of people. Some people end up living really well, and I'm not so sure they're just making that money legally or whatever. There's 4 adults in the house. All 4 adults are working and contributing to the house, and that can be. You can get a nice place if you do that, if you're willing to do that. I don't know if you could send, two couples have 2 kids. I don't know whether you could send all 4 of them to college with that, but it's still you know, that's just the difference. All right. Trump's going after the Constitution. Apparently, he dislikes this clause, and I think I've written it down right. Let me see if I can say it. People's right to challenge their detention and to demand the government justify their confinement. Now, he doesn't want to do that. Okay? He don't want to do that. That's why he wants the Constitution redone. Well, if it's redone legally and they go through the ratification process and everything like that, it will take about 10 years, 20 years to get it done. All right? By that time, you know, he'll just suspend the clause for pending ratification, you know, something like that. That's just Donald Sneaky. I told you about what I thought he's doing down there with bringing the extra people in and everything like that. That just, when the statistics say there's no crime, but he's in charge. The U.S. government runs D.C. They gave some autonomy to the local government that's there. But if they Congress can vote to rescind that. And if they do, then it's totally the United States government's running D.C. And you can see him turning that into getting rid of everything and turning it into a party town. You know, back around the time of the 60s when there was segregation and there was the riots and whatnot, Newark, New Jersey and Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was the first city to go all predominantly black. Then I think Newark was right alongside it, or second, you know, just barely second. And that's been a thorn in his side for a long time, you know. Trump is a complete racist. I mean, he wants them to be, you know, black people should be valets to him and, you know, what have you. That's it, you know. He doesn't want any, I don't think he even likes black valets. I don't think he wants black people working for him. You know, but I don't know. He's definitely a racist, though, and you can find, it's surprisingly, you can find a black person who will vote for racist measures against his own people because Trump promises some positions or money. You saw it on his if you watch closely, you can see it on the Apprentice, and you see it in his cabinet sometime. Well, last cabinet, not this one, I don't think. The first one he did up, you know. Okay, I always talk about the hypocrisy and of Trump, but I think it's all politicians. Don't get me wrong. And, you know, I think they all say whatever they want you to hear to get elected. And I have an example of that. 3 Republican members of the House put through recognized the anniversary of Medicaid, or Medicare. I'm not sure which one they're talking about. I think they're similar, but they're different, all right? But these 3 members that recognize the anniversary and the benefits of Medicaid or Medicare, whatever, which one it is, I forget, and they turn around, and they were the ones that voted to gut it when the big bill was going through. They voted to gut it. Now that's the kind of hypocrisy that I have trouble dealing with, and this is what, you know, I say I don't like politicians, and one of the reasons I got out of politics when I was involved in it for a short period of time on a very low level, I got out of it because it just made any sense. And I was in the Democratic Party, and I was in their county committee, and I said, I can't do this crap. This is bullshit. You know, I'm not the most honest. I try to be truthful and honest, and I try to help people, but I'm not the greatest person in the world to do that. I don't know what I can say. But I saw that, and I said, this isn't for me, though. I mean, they lie to their friends, they lie to their parents, they lie to their wives, they lie to their children, they lie to everybody. Politicians, if they're talking, are lying for the most part. And that's, okay, if you understand that, that's all right. That's your problem to deal with it then, But some of them are good, don't get me wrong. I think there's some good ones out there. Depending on the issue, whether I trust them to do the right thing or not. AOC is one I trust pretty much to do the right thing. But I don't like, I like independence. I like Bernie because he's basically independent. He leans towards the Democrats because he just can't deal with some of the Republicans' antics. But I understand that because an independent has doesn't usually get any power in the House or in the Senate if they get elected there. So you have to sort of lean in a certain direction if you want support for your programs and whatnot. Look at Bernie. His programs, they're very difficult to put through. They're good programs. They make sense. They work in the real world, but there is more greed in the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate than there is in most any other government in the world. Individual greed. And now you've got the king of greed, Donald Trump, running the president, and he's just, put. The reason these people that he has in the cabinet are incompetent is because they'll do whatever he wants them to, which is not him personally. I believe it's the people behind him, his people like his chief of staff and whatnot are big influencers on him. I think Musk still has a very large influence into the government, and I think he's just keeping quiet because it destroyed his business, and he didn't like that too much. The threat of a third party just means that third party will be worse than the Republicans are. Democrats, if they want to win anything, have to get going, and they're not. They're being very complacent. This happened in 1933 in Germany, and it's happened in other countries. And you get leaders that are totalitarian and whatnot. That's like down here. I cannot explain to you how Petro got elected president when they tried to throw him out of the mayor's office in Bogota twice when he was in there, all right, as mayor. He's got a reputation as being corrupt, and he still is. And Uribe, people, they say he's corrupt and that he's going to do his 12 years on his farm, home, what do they call it, home prison or whatever. But, I lived in Parsippany for, about over 20 years. I think I lived in the apartment I was in for 30 years, 28 or 30 years. Anyhow, every time the current mayor would get defeated, because I don't know how many terms they can serve or if there was term limits on them, but anyhow, every time they'd get indicted and arrested for some crime or something, because the next one coming in would order the investigation. And this went on for the whole time I was there. It's a joke, The last one when I was there was the one that got arrested for giving his girlfriend free dental care on the government. The city paid for her dental care. It wasn't his wife. I don't even know whether they lived together, but it was his girlfriend. So that was a big deal. The one before that was a lot worse, but. We as human beings have a tendency to elect bullshit. You know, we're not really electing an individual. You remember back in the day when they would do the trains took the train across the country and campaign. They would shake hands everywhere, and then it got to a point where the security doesn't want them shaking hands with anybody anymore unless they're sure they're privileged. That they've been vetted. People that get to shake the president's hands have been vetted. They've been put there to shake the president's hand. I wouldn't touch that hand, Trump's hand. If you offered it to me to shake his hand, I wouldn't do it. I just don't like the man, and I'm not going to be hypocritical about it. All right, that's it for today. It's Friday. You guys are all off for the weekend. I've been off for the last 10 years, last 20 years. So you guys go out, have a great day. I'll be back. I'll be around tomorrow. There's some preseason football tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can get some research, and maybe I'll pick a couple of games for you. In the meantime, please subscribe to my webpage here. My YouTube channel. That's what it is. Subscribe to my channel. All right. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm not making anything off of it right now. You can tell I don't put up spectacular headlines or anything like that. So it's just called, it's called a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it's all about me and Lucy talking bullshit. So, all right, I'll talk to you later. Subscribe, comment, whatever you want, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.